Hello, welcome to section 7.3 where we're going to factor trinomials of the form ax squared plus bx plus c, where a does not equal 1, so we're going to have constants in the front of the squared term. Okay, so we're going to do factoring with GCF, trial and error, AC method. I'm not really sure we're going to do the trial and error part. I mean, I'll talk about it a little bit, but I think that method can be really difficult for some people. But, I mean, hey, if that's what you want to do, by all means, go for it. Okay, so let's get into it here. First thing we need to figure out is if there's a greatest common factor. Okay, so first one, if there's a greatest common factor in the trinomial, we factor it out. Okay, now if we have a binomial, trinomial, or if there are more than 3 terms, if it's a binomial, right now we're still, we haven't learned how to factor it yet, but if it's a trinomial, we need to use, we can do that, undo. Well, we don't really, it's not like we're undoing FOIL, but I mean, I guess technically where we put the last term and we combine it to become the middle. I'm just going to put this for reference that this is what I'm talking about when I say C or B. Okay, and then, and if it has more than 3 terms, we'll do the factor by grouping method that we talked about before, and then we can check. So identify the best method. So this one, we would have to do GCF. And then later there's another one called difference of squares that we'll talk about later. This one will be the little tree method because there's 3 terms. This one is factor by grouping. And that's what we covered in 7.1. Okay, so let's go ahead and do that. Let's factor this completely. So once you factor out the GCF, sometimes you'll see that there's a new factor. So let's see here. Everything in here can be factored by 2. So we'll go ahead and take that out. So that leaves us with n squared minus 4n minus 21. Okay. So now you have this trinomial inside that does not have an, if we just ignore the 2 on the outside, okay, and we just look here at this part, we'll say, oh, this doesn't have a leading factor of 1 or a leading coefficient of 1. So maybe we can do that trick where we that we just showed you last thing. So the way that we have to think about it, think in my little thought bubble here, is you have to see this as n squared minus 4n minus 21 alone. And then you can go ahead and do, oh, okay, what are the 2 factors of 21 that combine to become negative 4? So we have negative 7 and 3. So then so this part, and we'll leave the 2 just outside, that will factor into n minus 7 and n plus 3, and we're done. Okay. So let's do this again. Factor completely, obviously, or maybe not obviously, but the highest value that goes into all 3 is 4. So we factor that out. That leaves us with m squared minus m minus 2. Okay. So then again, we just look at the inside, m squared minus m minus 2. So, you can write this however you want. And then on the work would be, okay, negative 2. That combines to become the middle term, but it's not explicitly written, but it's negative 1. So this would be a negative 2 times a positive 1, and that would work. So this factors out to m minus 2, m plus 1, okay? All right, so then let's go ahead and do another factor completely. 4y squared minus 36y plus 56. Let's see if 4 divides everything. So if I factor out a 4, I get y squared minus 9y plus, what is that, 14? So 14, okay? And then, you just look at the middle. Okay, so if we look at y squared minus 9y plus 14, right? We can leave the 4 on the outside. We know it's going to end up looking like this, a 2 parentheses with two binomials. And we want the product of 14 such that it adds up to -9. So that's going to be -7 times -2. So that would be y minus 7, y minus 2. Okay? Okay, let's do another one. Let's factor out the 2. We get here t squared minus 5t plus 6. Okay, so ignoring the 2 and just looking inside, what are the two factors of 6 that combine to become -5? Well, that's just -2 times -3. So then it becomes finally here, t minus 2, t minus 3 with the 2 on the outside. Okay, so that's factored. Let's do one more. I think we can do one more here. Yeah. What if you have a variable in each term? Well, if you have a variable in each term, we can factor out, let's go ahead and see what we can factor out. Here we could factor out, the GCF is 4u. So that would give us u squared plus 4u minus 5. Okay. So now just looking at this, -5, that combined to +4, well, that's just -1 times 5. So then the final answer is 4u on the outside. And then this part factors into u minus 1, u plus 5, okay? And that's it. So let's look at the next one. Okay, what's the common factor? It looks like 6y here. Okay, that will give us y squared plus 3y minus 10, okay? And then looking solely at the inside, we have -10. What are the factors of -10 that add up to a +3? So -2 times a +5 will give us that +3 that we want. So we leave the 6y on the outside. And y squared plus y3 minus 10 factors into y minus 2y plus 5, okay? All right, so now we're going to, so that's GCF. So obviously, if you have a GCF, you take that out first, and then you continue factoring. In this case, when we took out the GCF, we found trinomials that had, the first coefficient was 1, but it's not always going to be that easy. So what I'm going to show you now is how to factor using what's called the AC method. Now remember, we have ax squared plus bx plus c. A is the first term, c is the last term, and we're going to do something similar where we take the product, though, first, and we combine it to become the middle term, okay? And then it's similar to when a is equal to 1, but it changes afterwards, just a little bit, okay? So let me go ahead and show you. So here we have 6x squared plus 7x plus 2. A is 6, C is 2, so AC is equal to 6 times 2, which is 12. Now, we ask ourselves, what are the factors of 12 that add up to 7? Well, we know that's 3 and that's 4, okay? 3 plus 4 is 7. Now, this is the new step, okay? The new step is here. I mean, also after the fact that we use AC instead of just C. But I mean, technically, if we were going to think about it, AC for the other ones, it would just be C anyway because A is 1. But that's just me dorking out over here. Okay, so now what we're going to do is we're going to rewrite this middle term 7x. Okay, I'm going to take that 7x. So here's my equation, 6x squared. Okay, I'm going to take this 7x here, and I'm going to rewrite it using these numbers. So plus 3x plus 4x. Okay, so this takes the place of this, okay, plus 2, and I bring the rest out. So do you see what I did? It didn't change the value of the expression because I just rewrote 7x as 3x plus 4x. So then you might ask the question, well, why did I do that? Well, that's because now, look, I have something that's 4 terms, and I can factor by grouping these together, okay? So now looking at this, what's my GCF? Okay, so that comes from before. We went over factor by grouping, so we could do this. So we have 3x times, and then that's going to give us 2x plus 1, okay? Bring down the sign, plus, what's the GCF of these two terms? 2, And then that gives us 2x plus 1. And then look what we have here. Oh, we have a common binomial of 2x plus 1. So let's factor that out. And then what's left? We have here 3x and a plus 2. So that's going to be our next factor, 3x plus 2. Okay, so we'll do a couple more this way so that you can see really clearly how this works. Okay, so I might, yeah, I think I'll take this one off because you need to see very clearly. Okay, so AC method. Okay, so remember we're factoring trinomials of this form. A is 4, C is 3. So first thing we do, what's our first step? Multiply A and C, right? So here, what are we doing? So 4 times 3, that's 12, okay? And then we find two factors of 12 that combine to 8, right? Find two factors of, the product AC that combine to make the middle term. And what's the middle term in this case? I use the letter B because I'm talking about in general, but in this specific case, the middle term is 8. So what are the factors of 12 that make 8? Is going to be 2 and 6 because they're all positive, okay? So then finally, the third one is replace middle term with those two factors found in factors as a sum found in 2. So basically we're taking this and we're replacing it with this. Okay, so we have 4y squared, and then in this one, don't forget the variable. Forget variable. Okay, because we don't want it to change meaning. Okay, oh, that was a weird 2. Okay, so 4y squared plus, and then we have 2y plus 6y. So I replace this middle term with that, and then I bring down the rest. And then the last part is factor by grouping. Okay, so now that I replaced that, I have here 4y plus 2y. The common factor of that is 2y. That gives me 2y plus 1. Then I have 6y plus 3. Common factor is 3. That gives me 2y plus 1. Okay, these are exactly the same. So I can factor. So I have 2y plus 1 times 2y plus 3, and I'm done. Okay, now you can do guess and check. Guess and check is a little tough because, you're really guessing. So you just have to keep putting factors and factors and factors and factors until you get to the ones you want. All right, let's do an example where they have a negative. So I will get rid of this one. Instead of deleting, I hit duplicate, sorry. Okay, so let's go ahead. What's our AC? It's 6 times negative 20. Sometimes AC can be really large. Okay, so I want the factors of negative 120 that combine to become 19. All right, so what are the factors of 120 that combine to become 19 positive? So one's going to be positive, one's going to be minus, right? So then let's think about that. So you have, 20, 120 and 6, right? 120 divided by 12 is 10. Nope, you have 120 divided by, 120, let's see, 120, sorry about that. 24, how about 5 and 24? So 120, so that's, so the way that I do it, I just keep doing this, I keep thinking it like this. That's kind of, how to find factors. You divide one and then see if it divides into the other. So if I say 5 times 24, that gives me positive 19, and it multiplies to become negative 120. So I rewrite, so 3 6g squared minus 5g plus 24g minus 20, okay? And then lastly, I'm going to factor by grouping. So I look at these two, I take out a g, I get 6g minus 5 plus, and then I look at these two, I factor out a 4, and I get 6g minus 5. Okay, I notice that these two are the same. Good. So I bring that in front, 6g minus 5, although you could written it in the back too, right? These two, I factor this out, and then what's left is g plus 4. So that's my second factor, g plus 4. And that's it. So it gets easier every time you do it. You know, this was a positive in the middle and a negative at the end. Okay, so what are some other things I could say? What if there are going to be a few of you that go, well, is there a shorter way? I know I can do this a shorter way. Yes, you can. For those of you that are interested, okay, you can do what I call reverse box method. Okay, so where you have the product, you go backwards basically, okay? And these two have to combine to become 19g. So then you would, but again, that's just guess and check. So you would have 6g and g, for instance, and then you say, okay, what are the products of negative 20? So then you can do, minus 4 and then positive 5 here, or vice versa. Is it minus? Let's see here. It has to be positive. Yeah, so it has to be positive 19. So this would actually, this is plus 4 and this is a minus 5. So this would be negative 5g and then this would be 24g. And then that would give you your negative 19. So these are your factors. Okay. I'm just thinking, I wonder if we could use a combination of the two. You probably could, actually. Okay, what if you have something like this, where, and maybe we can try that. What can we factor out here? There's a GCF involved, so let's go ahead and take that out first, right? 5 goes into everything. So if I take out 5, so this goes without saying, but maybe I should say it. Anytime you're factoring, GCF takes priority. So if you can take out a GCF, by all means, do that first, you know. Okay, so now I'm looking at this, okay? So you can take, okay, so first thing, find AC. So that's 2 times 14, that's 28. Okay, then I want the factors of 28 that combine to become negative 11, okay? So then you have here, what? Factors of 28, negative 4 and negative 7, okay? And then we can rewrite that. We have 10y, not 10y, just kidding. We're only looking at this after all. So the 5 is just out, you know. So we can write this 5, just, you know, and then forget about it. Okay, so 2y squared minus 4y minus 7y plus 14. Okay, factor by grouping. So then you have, I can factor out a 2y from the first term. So I'm just bringing the 5 along for the ride. So I have 2y. On the inside, I have y minus 2. And then here, if I take out a negative 7, I get y minus 2 again. Okay, so now my final answer is going to be, and then 5 on the outside, is y minus 2 times, and then what's left over is 2y minus 7. Okay. All right, so in general, we have here, we just did GCF is always first when you're factoring. Then you can do the magical, you know, here where you have C and then it comes out to B if the first one is 1. Then if you have more, you can do AC method. You can also do what I told you before, reverse box method. That's possible. So something to play around with, but AC is pretty much straightforward. It always will give you an answer if it's factorable. Okay, so that's all I have for you for this section. You know, good luck. If you do want to see trial and error, you would just have to list all the possible factors and combine them. But, you know, whichever way feels more comfortable to you, in the end, this is your journey anyway. So 7.3, good luck, happy studying, and I will see you on the next video.